Yep, test.
Yeah. Right. Gary, call me going. Okay. Call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Hustick.
Here. Oh, here.
Hornberger.
Here.
LaBelle.
Here.
Baroni.
Here.
Tkachuk.
Here.
Finazzo.
Here.
Smith here. There are 7 members of the board here this evening. Approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Hustick motions. Mr. Baroni supports. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The agenda is approved. Good evening, everyone. I would like to welcome you to the Chesterfield Township Zoning Board of Appeals. This board is a quasi-judicial board which consists of 7 members. In order for your variance to be granted this evening, you must receive a majority vote from the full board. I recognize 7 here this evening, so it will be 4 of the 7 on the affirmative would be necessary to grant that variance. In order for this board to grant a variance, you must prove a practical difficulty exists with your property. Unfortunately, personal circumstances and financial hardships rarely provide a basis for satisfying the standards set forth in Section 7.2E6 of the Township Zoning Ordinance. If your variance is granted, you have 6 months to obtain the required permits, or your variance will expire and you must reappear before this board. If your variance is denied, you have the right to appeal this decision. By state statute, you may appeal to the circuit court and have 30 days to file an appeal. There is no other township board that can overrule a zoning board of appeals decision. All cases will be heard in the order they appear on the agenda. I will call the case, then the public hearing will be opened. The applicant will have an opportunity to speak. The board will then ask questions of the applicant. Each member of the public who wishes to speak will have 3 minutes to do so. We ask you please state your name and address for the record when speaking. At the end of the public hearing, the applicant will have an opportunity to address any questions or concerns. Once the public hearing is closed, it will then be brought back to the board for consideration, a motion, and a roll call vote. Item number 5, petitions this evening. The petition is ZBA petition number 2025-08, Brutopia, Michigan, is requesting a front yard setback of 9.2 feet from the required 50 feet from section 3.16A, private road, for parcel number 0917-400-127. Is there a motion to open the hearing?
So moved.
Hornberger moves.
Support.
Supported by LaBelle. All those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The public hearing is open. Would the petitioner like to approach the podium? Please state your name and address.
Yep. Reed Cooksey with Stonefield Engineering Design.
Now, there's a microphone problem. Push the button again if you would, please.
Now can you hear?
No, it's, is there no microphone on it? Just one
Yeah.
finger's off, though.
Oh.
Try it now. There you go.
Now can you hear me? There we go. Yes, as I was saying, I'm Reed Cooksey with Stonefield Engineering Design. Address is 555 South Old Woodward, Suite 12L, Birmingham, Michigan. What you guys have before you is an application for a front yard setback variance of 50 feet. We're a double frontage lot off of 23 Mile and the private drive Colonial Club. We have a very unique piece of property here, maybe one of the most unique ones in the township. We are 60 feet wide with double frontage. As you can see in our application, having a required double front yard there with 50 feet means we only have 10 feet of actual developable area on the site, which is not practical. How we've oriented this site is in a manner to maintain the required green belt on the drive-through side of the building. We've gone through all of our planning approvals, and it's been conditionally approved on this variance being granted here. We've been working with township staff pretty diligently on making sure there's adequate landscaping and buffering on both sides, and we've really tightened this up as much as we can. We'd be happy to answer any questions on our hardship and the application as a whole.
Are there any questions from the board? Mr. LaBelle? No?
Actually, I've got a comment and a question. First of all, and maybe I should have asked this when you were in front planning, what's stopping you from coming into the parking lot and consuming some of that parking lot and relocating the entrance onto 23 Mile Road? Is there some utilities in there that would impede that? As the owner of the mall, of the strip mall, considered doing something like this? Because honestly, 9.5 feet, 10 feet from 50 is quite a variance. And is there a way that we can lessen that amount?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the comment. We've been working with the mall owner since the beginning here. Obviously, we've been working on an easement to get access from them to use their entrance. In the conversations we've had, they've really had pretty difficult to get in touch with them in general, but had very little luck in accessing being able to access the site. There are some utilities over there. We're making our sanitary connection and a few other items to the mall piece that we would encumber. They don't want to lose any of that parking over there as well. Just doesn't seem like a starter for them.
Are there any other questions from the board? Would any members of the public like to speak?
Good evening, Bob Kirk, 19500 Hall Road, Clinton Township. I apologize for our submissions. Unfortunately, this area of law, you're required to go off of a record. A lot of times minutes don't catch up with what was said, so we submit a lot in writing to you. I'm not going to go through everything that I sent because I know you've been through it. I represent Tides on 23, the apartments to the east. There's 90 units there. Our owner has been in the business 23 years, has 1,200 units total. I have an affidavit filed with you that he believes that this is going to be a significant detrimental effect to it with regard to traffic, backup, noise, and light. That is also required kind of by law. They're proposing this coffee shop, which opens at 5:30 in the morning, closes at 10 at night. That's the detrimental effect on our apartments. 938 trips is in your packet I just gave you now, they estimate. At times, there's 22 cars in the stacking space. And the average wait is about 5 minutes in line. They're asking for an 80% setback variance. Setbacks are required to protect adjacent property, protect overcrowding of buildings and roads, access to light and view, green space, and emergency access. A variance can't be granted which is contrary to public interest, and that's the public interest for setbacks. With regard to your ordinance, they have to prove 5 factors. They have to prove all of them by clear, material, and convincing evidence, substantial evidence. The first one is the strict enforcement would cause a practical difficulty and deprive the owner of rights enjoyed by others in the area. Here, the deprivation is, I know of no other properties in the area that have such a variance on side yard. The only difficulty they have is that they're trying to put 10 pounds potatoes in a 5-pound sack. They're overbuilding this site. I reviewed the maps. I see the Burger Kings, the Starbucks, everyone looks like they've complied with the ordinance. The second factor is that conditions are unique to the property. There's nothing unique about this. I've done this 30 years. Uniqueness is usually an odd-shaped property. You got a drain in the back, an ITC corridor, topography. I had one in Livonia last week. There was a 19-foot fall-off between the front and the back of the property. Nothing's here besides they don't have enough property to do what they want to do. They can't be self-created. In this case, based upon my investigation, the owner of this property also used to own the strip center there. He bought this property in 2004 from the Anthony Lombardo Group. Anthony told me that it was bought to add to the shopping center. He doesn't own the center. He kept this odd piece. So I say it is self-created. The request cannot confer special privileges. Others similarly situated in the same district. I see no one else in this district that received 80% reduction in setbacks. Then the request cannot be contrary to the spirit and intent of the chapter. That's your ordinance, and those are the items that, with regard to setbacks, why we need those. In this case, we have apartments. I just gave you pictures of that. You can see there's 50 apartments along there with front doors and balconies facing this. 5:30 in the morning, there's going to be cars there till 10 o'clock at night. The purpose of the setback is to protect those properties. In this case, it's not going to do that. I gave you their traffic study, incredible amount of traffic, 938 trip generations. You'll see a Starbucks with drive-throughs, maybe 600. There's a lot of trip generations happening here. It's an obnoxious use, one of the most obnoxious I've ever seen. They claim it's modest and reasonable. Clearly, it's not compatible with the area. It doesn't promote the public health, safety, and welfare. I say it doesn't meet any of the 5 criteria, especially considering competent material and substantial evidence. They've addressed none of those factors. Again, you're not here just to say, what can you do with the property? Let's make it work. That's not the test. There's 4 tests in your ordinance. They've met none of those. Thank you.
I do note for the record that the board did receive Mr. Kirk's correspondence dated September 5th and September 9th and was provided that correspondence in addition to the handout this evening. Anyone else from the public like to speak?
Jennifer Green, 28298 Raleigh Crescent, Chesterfield 48051. I'm speaking to express my concerns about the proposal about the drive-through. As you know, 23 Mile is super busy. Congestion is a daily issue. And unfortunately, this stretch has been a site of many accidents. The timing of the traffic lights at Gratiot, Waterside, Colonial Club, either side of 94 already caused backups and frustrations. I drive it every day to work and back. Adding another high-volume business with multiple drive-through lanes is just going to make it worse. I'm especially concerned about seeking access to a private road, which is Colonial Club. That road was never intended to handle commercial drive-through. Using it in this way would put additional strain on an already overburdened area and would create serious safety risks. I see pedestrians walking along there. One question I'd like to ask is, if they're going to access the private road, who's going to maintain it? Right now, it's Tides and the condos. So if you're having the private or the public access it, are they going to start? Is Macomb County going to do it? That's just a big question I have. Furthermore, the logistics of placing another drive-through coffee shop right across from Starbucks. I mean, we've got Tim Hortons, we have Dunkin' Donuts, we have McDonald's. We don't need another coffee shop. Plus Tim Hortons and Panera around the corner. You have a large plot of land between 94, Hall Road, 21 Mile. Build it over there. Your people can get your cup of joe over there. What do they have over there? Has any traffic studies been done? He mentioned a traffic study. I would say before you approve this, look at the consequences. I feel that there needs to be data showed the impact on this traffic flow and the accident risk and the pedestrian safety. So I just urge you, in closing, to weigh the safety and the quality of life, and I really don't feel that Chesterfield needs another drive-through coffee shop. Thank you.
Would anyone else from the public like to speak, please?
Hi, I'm Barbara Clemens, and I'm an owner and on the board for the condos behind Tides 23. My concern is Colonial Club. Colonial Club is a private road. This winter, there was a hole in where the crosswalk is that was the width of my car and almost the length of my car, and we contacted the city, who directed us to the county, and the county said it's a private road, they do not maintain it. Tides owns the road, so Tides had to fill in this big hole, and they filled in other places along the road also. So it's a private road. So we have an easement to use the road, and Delano, behind the new townhomes, has an easement to use the road with Tides because they own the road. So my concern is this coffee shop that's going in. I'm not against the coffee shop. I'm against the direction of the traffic onto the private road. That's illegal. That's trespassing. You can't do that. There's no person and there's no entity that's above the law. So if they want to have a coffee shop, the traffic needs to go around the coffee shop and back out into the parking lot. No traffic should be coming or going off of Colonial Club because it's a private road. The county told us that, and Tides owns it. So that's my concern. It's just if you pass this, it's breaking the law, and you can't do that. That's why I'm very adamant about this because, I'm concerned about following the law, and it's illegal. Thank you.
Are there any additional comments from the public? No. Please.
Good evening. Mark Delden, 18720 Mac, Grosse Pointe Farms. I'm here on behalf of Tides on 23, the adjacent property owner and the owner of Colonial Club Drive. Just want to start and just touch briefly on the fiction that the applicant has sold the township, and that's that there's an easement across Colonial Club Drive. There's not. And they're trying to legalize a trespass through a variance. That's not what a variance is for. But what I really want to focus on is factor 3. And the ordinance and what Michigan law demands is that a hardship not be self-created. Can't be made by the owner or its predecessor in title. That's the standard. It's not just the opinion of a lawyer. What we have here is we have a failed developer who carved this parcel out, refused to combine it when he owned the adjacent plaza that now they can't buy land from, lost the plaza to foreclosure, and kept this little, tiny, useless remnant. He built this very box And now that box is too small, so he's coming here and crying to the township that there's nothing I can do with it. Sure there was. 20 years ago, before you lost the main parcel to foreclosure and you kept the sliver. You know, not only are they asking to ignore this self-created hardship, they're asking for an over 80% setback. I've been doing real estate law for 18 years next month. I've never seen an 80% variance. That's not relief, that's surrender. A variance is not intended to reward a bad actor. You don't convert incompetence into government grace. If they want a drive-through, there's plenty of land. Go buy another piece. Buy some of the land you lost to foreclosure. What they can't do is launder this fiction through a variance. I think the board needs to deny the petition and, send the message that Chesterfield doesn't subsidize falsehoods, trespass, or self-made hardships. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additional comments from the public? If the petitioner would come back up to the podium, please. Are there any other questions from the board of the petitioner?
Mr. Chair, if I may. Would you comment on Mr. Kirk's narrative of the 5 requirements for a variance, please?
Want to make sure I'm quoting them correctly. Absolutely. So as you can see in our application, we addressed each of them. I can't speak to how this parcel came to exist. Again, it's 60 feet wide and a 50-foot front yard setback encumbers nearly the entire piece of it. If it was considered a side yard, it would only be 10 feet, and we'd be talking about mere inches here. So that's the difference in what is considered a front yard, which our front yard is 23 mile, and what has been determined as a secondary front yard off of Colonial Club. I would argue that it is a hardship because this is how the parcel exists today. I cannot attest to why the assessor 20, 30 years ago was able to divide this parcel. It's a non-conforming width with the current ordinance standards, but that's how it sits today. With that, we only have 10 feet of actual developable area on the lot, and I think that's a pretty clear hardship if we were trying to develop it as a commercial property. As for the assertion that it's not in kind with the neighboring properties, we're right by the intersection of Gratiot and 23 Mile, the most heavily commercial corridor in the entire township. Like they said, there's a Starbucks across the street. We're not here to debate whether the merits of the business is appropriate. We're here to talk about the hardship of the actual variance itself. So I would argue that this is a highly commercial corridor. We are zoned correctly for it. We did not rezone this property. This is what it stands today. As far as whether the requested variance is not contrary to the spirit and intent of the ordinance, again, the ordinance states that this is a commercial property. Whether we are bringing a coffee shop in, a bookstore, anything, no one could develop it with that front yard setback. We're not talking about the use here, we're talking about the variance. If this property is to be developed in the township, a variance needs to be acquired. We have talked with the neighboring property about acquiring land. They are willing to grant us access. They do not want to give us additional land. We would have to, again, have to subdivide the property. They have an entrance there. There's a sanitary main there. There's a water main there. It encumbers a lot more than just, why don't you shift the building over? This is the best we can do with this property for any sort of commercial use. And while they keep mentioning 80%, I disagree that I haven't seen variances greater than this before. We're doing what we can with the property, and the merits of the actual planning and everything was debated during Planning Commission. So I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
Mr. LaBelle, do you have any additional questions?
No, it was covered in the narrative, recent narrative. Thank you.
So for the record, can you confirm that the Planning Commission has already reviewed the site plan, approved the site plan, pending the variance approval?
Yes, I can. Oh, sorry. Yes, I can. This is the condition of approval is to get this variance.
I have a question for Mr. LaBelle. Because the site plan was approved, all of the ingress and egress meets current regulations and codes and legalities in terms of access to the private drive, correct?
Oops. There is a proposed layout drawing of the site as presented by the applicant. We looked at the proposed layout with the entrances and exits. Our job in planning was not to decide whether or not it was legal for them to access that road. Now, if in fact, or when it does, go to some kind of litigation, and if it is denied access to that road, then everything that we have done so far is throw out the window, because the way that is, we approved the drawing as submitted. Now, if they cannot access that road, then the drawings are null and void. Does that answer your question?
I think so.
Thank you.
Yeah. Are there any additional questions for the applicant from the board?
So you're telling me that Colonial Court is a private drive, right? And they can't access it from what we're here for today, so why are we, I'm trying to figure out what, okay.
Yeah, it is a private drive. It's a named private drive. Now, the applicant has documentation saying that he has easement to it. The owner of Colonial Drive has documentation saying that he does not have access to it. So, at this point, all we're here to do is to discuss the variance. If in fact, when it does go to court, it does go to litigation, and depending upon which way it goes, this whole thing could move forward if this board decides to allow the variance, or the whole thing could just be scrapped, because then they would have to come back in front of planning again with a new design, a different drawing, not having the access onto Colonial Drive.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions from the board to the applicant? Okay, thank you. At this time, I'll take a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Support.
Okay. That motion was made by Barone, supported by LaBelle. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Public hearing is closed. Now the discussion part with the board comes into play. Are there any comments or questions or just general discussion points from any member of the board?
I would say everything on my end was covered on that last bit of back and forth on the driveway entryway.
Anyone else? No? Good. Okay, well, now's the time to entertain a motion from the board. Does anyone have a motion they would like to make? I'll make the motion then, if you...
No, go ahead.
Okay. Okay. In CBA petition number 2025-08 for parcel 0917-400, 127, I move to grant the variance request based on the practical difficulty of the property and its use within the C3 zoning district due to the narrow nature of the property and the other limitations placed on it.
Support.
Oh,
Support.
that motion was made by Smith, supported by Barone. Roll call, Hustick.
Aye.
Please do it again.
Aye.
Hornberger.
Aye.
LaBelle,
Aye.
Barone,
Aye.
Smith, aye. Tukacek,
Aye.
Finazzo.
Aye.
Okay. The variance is granted 7-0. Reminder, you have 6 months to apply for building permits.
Appreciate your guys' time.
Question, please? The memorialization of your decision either comes by letter or approval of the minutes. Which way do you do it? There's a difference in my timing.
I believe it's approval of the minutes. Next item on the agenda, old business, seeing none. New business, none. Approval of minutes from prior meeting. That would be the September 24th, 2025 meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from that date? That was moved by Hustick, supported by Hornberger. All those in favor, say aye. Same sign. Minutes have been approved. Okay. Okay, where's my agenda? Are there any public comments? Seeing none, we move to adjournment. I entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Hornberger. Is there support? Support by Hustick. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.